this is something special. This is the way everyone worked together. Like, I think everyone kind of felt the power of the moment. I don't know if it's the Elvis effect, but we all knew right from the get-go that Austin was special.
Hello, everyone. I hope you're all having a wonderful day today. My name is Talal, and you're listening to the Popcorn and Soda Podcast, the show where we discuss all things movies, pop culture, and so much more. I want to thank each and every one of you for making me a small part of your day. On today's show, we're joined by a very special guest. You can now see her as the mother of the king himself, as Gladys Presley in the movie event of the summer, Elvis, directed by Baz Luhrmann and starring Austin Butler, which is now playing in movie theaters worldwide. On the show today, very talented Helen Thomson. How are you, Helen?
I'm great, Talal. Hi.
Hi, and thank you so much for coming on the show today. Just before we even get started into all things Elvis, how have you been over these last few years, Helen? We're living in this ever-changing world, especially for someone in the creative arts. What did the last 2 years look like for you personally?
Kind of patchy, I guess, like for most people. We had, I live in Australia, and we had, our industry had a lockdown for about 4 months, 4 or 5 months. In Sydney, where I am, you just basically couldn't work as an actor for that long, which was fairly scary in some ways, but then, there's always a silver lining. Got to have more time with the kids, got out in the garden a bit more, that kind of stuff. But, yeah, it's been a crazy time, hasn't it? And I think one of the, I guess, sort of weirdly comforting things is that as a sort of a planet, we were all going through it. So it
Yeah.
wasn't kind of like some weird place somewhere else that's sort of having this horrible virus. We were all coping with it. And somehow that made me feel a little better about dealing with it. But yeah, it's been really up and down.
Yeah, it really has, and I think it's so interesting what you just mentioned there, especially because for like 2 years almost, there was next to nothing in the entertainment industry where there were some starts and then there were some stops, and we'll dive into a bit of that, especially with Elvis. And I think out of this entire pandemic that we're still technically in, I think it's great that so many people have found a way to go through all the negative and find some positivity. And as you mentioned, you get close with your family, you find hobbies that maybe you didn't enjoy as much before, didn't put as much effort into. So I'm glad that your garden probably is in tip top shape right now.
Yeah. And we painted the house ourselves as well.
There we go. And you painted the house themselves. There we go. Anyone needs painting tips, Helen Thomson. She is your go-to. Before we deep dive into all things Elvis, I'm really interested in your story, Helen. Where does this all begin for you? What inspired you to follow a path in the creative arts?
It's funny. I never quite know how to answer that because I grew up in the country. My parents were farmers, and we were about as far removed from the entertainment industry as you could possibly imagine. And yet, I suppose from certain television shows and books and all sorts of stuff, I don't know, I was just drawn to things theatrical. And then I kind of worked out, then of course there was the school plays and things like that. And at some point I must have worked out that it is something you can do for a living. And eventually I did kind of audition for drama school and got in, and kind of the rest is history. But yeah, it's interesting. I suppose you become like a little magnet to the things that you're interested in, and you find them wherever they are, even if they're, far and few between. And so, yeah, a little country girl somehow found her way into the arts. And I do remember when I started at drama school thinking, really being excited to kind of go to class every morning. And then I kind of thought, it sort of dawned on me one day. I thought, oh, I found my tribe. It was a really strong feeling that kind of found my people. And yeah, and I guess I've been doing it ever since.
Just growing up, what do you recall as some of your favorite movies that just left an impression on you? Was there a TV show? Was it a movie? What do you remember the most?
I was very influenced by my father was quite strict about what we could watch. He didn't like us watching too much commercial television. So we had the kind of the in Australia, it's the ABC, and it's sort of the government run channel. It's fantastic. It has stuff from all over the world. It's very diverse. It's probably left leaning, but I was brought up on a lot of English period dramas. Um, like Brideshead Revisited, and but also I loved all the sort of the mad comedy shows that they had, Kenny Everett and all sorts of kind of lovely nutty stuff and the goodies. And I don't know, this is very Australian, and North America may not get those references, but a lot of kind of costume dramas and comedies. And it's interesting. I've done a lot of costume dramas and a lot of comedy as well, in my career to date. And it's not sort of surprising when I look back. I mean, even Elvis is a costume drama
Oh yeah.
in some ways.
Yeah, I can imagine that. And so it's interesting. Here we are, a country girl, and she wants to be an actress, or maybe, who knows, something in the creative arts. Maybe it's on the stage, maybe it's on the screen. Do you recall your first audition where it kind of just hit you, where, okay, I'm actually doing this, and this is what I want to pursue? Do you remember that moment?
Well, I think anyone who's auditioned for drama school will never forget that day because it's pretty nerve-wracking. And I guess what you're saying is I'm serious enough about this to kind of want to study it and do it for a living. I want to make money from this. This is what I want to do. Um, and yeah, look, I remember that audition, and I remember kind of getting through all the stages until they kind of whittled it down to three of us. And they said, and they called me in, and they said, and I was so thrilled. I'm thinking, oh gosh, am I going to be, are they going to pick me? And because I knew the other two had been offered a place at the drama school, and they said, Helen, uh, we we really like what we saw.
No.
We need to knock a few edges off you. You've been brought up very well, but we need to knock a few of those edges off you. We're not entirely sure, but we're going to offer you a place. And I thought, I didn't care. I went, yeah.
I'll take it, right? It's like, yeah.
Yeah, I'll take it. And because of course, the great thing is, and I think sort of younger people getting into the industry should remember this, you're not supposed to be the package deal straight off. It's a journey. You know what I mean? You're not
Yeah.
supposed to be brilliant or perfect straight off. You gotta kind of learn as you go, and you got to live life a bit and all that kind of stuff. That's how you end up being a better actor. I mean, I think it's great that they kind of, they let me into the drama course, but it was kind of like, when we think she's got it, we're not sure, but we think she's got it. And, I did have it.
Yeah, well, that's to say the least. Yeah, and it's sometimes you need that one person, or a group of
Yeah.
people that, you know what, say, "We don't know what it is, but there's something about this person." And I think that's a common thread that I've heard a lot in so many of my different conversations with different creatives, where a lot of the things in this industry aren't in your hands. You can
Oh, yeah.
think you did, yeah, right? You can feel like you did the best audition you could, you best for the
Mm.
role, it should be for you. But there's maybe someone else that just resonates with one of the casting directors more so than you did. And I
Yeah.
think it's great that you didn't give up on your dream, because here we are, Elvis. It's like one of the biggest musical biopics of all time. So right off the bat, I want to congratulate you on the success of this film. It's, as I was saying, fans worldwide are just loving it and going back for multiple viewings. Like me
Yeah.
myself, yeah, I've seen it twice in the theaters already, and it just,
Yeah.
every time I saw it, it just got better and better. Like I said, this is
Yeah.
really it's really the movie event of the summer, right? Like the music, the culture, the performances, and
Yeah.
let's hone in on you. You play a pivotal role in the movie as Gladys Presley, Elvis's mother, who he had a very close relationship with. Right off the bat, I'm gonna say this: you have my favorite scenes in the entire movie. So, like, I honestly, the best scenes, my favorite ones, were the ones with you and Austin. So, let's start at the very
Oh,
beginning. Before landing the part, were you a fan of Elvis's music, and how familiar were you with Elvis and Gladys' story?
It's interesting, I'm an actress in her mid 50s, and I've done a lot of stage work. Particularly, I'm known for my stage work in Australia, um, and and also, when I do stage stuff, I'm used to transforming. That's what a lot of what you do in the theatre. You
Right.
tend to not so much be who you look like in real life. It is about transforming into a character. So transforming into Gladys was comfortable territory for me. But in terms of Elvis, I think I was around about 9 when he died, and so I was kind of a little bit too. So that's the 70s, and so I was a little bit too young to have my own music or be listening to my own music, that kind of stuff. So I can't say that I really knew him at that point. I have one memory though, and I think it must have been a topic of conversation because Elvis must have died. So we're talking about
Mm-hmm.
1977.
Right.
And it's my grandmother who was quite conservative. And I just remember her being really cross and talking about Elvis. And I'm thinking, and I knew who she was talking about. And she said, all of this rot started with him, that Elvis the pelvis. So she was one of those people who were really shocked by him and of that generation. And that's very much in the film, isn't it? That he was such
It
a,
is.
we forget, it looks so tame now, but he was so cutting edge, and he was so sexual, in a way that people used to stand there with a microphone and croon and kind of sing and kind of
Yeah.
stand nice and straight. But and it's like, they just, like people like my grandmother would have gone, oh. So that's what I remember about Elvis. Unfortunately, is some of the naysayers. But I've since learned that, yeah, I've got many family members who are huge Elvis fans. I'm getting calls from all sorts of people throughout my life the older generation, who are perhaps more Elvis's generation, who are saying, "Oh, I loved him. I loved him." And people I've known all my life and go, "Oh, really? You were an Elvis fan?" So I just
Interesting you
think
bring it up now, right? Now that I'm in the
yeah,
movie. Interesting, right?
yeah, yeah. So really, that's all I knew about Elvis. But the interesting thing is, I think if you were to go up to anybody in the street, like let's say it's before this movie came out, and you were to say just to a random person, sing me any little snatch of a song or name me one song from Elvis Presley, I bet you most people would go, oh, Hound Dog, Blue Suede Shoes, Suspicious Minds.
Jailhouse Rock,
You know
maybe,
what I mean?
or
Like we
yeah.
don't even realize how, even if you don't kind of haven't listened to his music or what have you, how much he has filtered into our society, and how much he's just sort of there. And he sort of always
Wow.
has been. It's interesting because he was worried that he was going to be forgotten. Isn't it amazing?
You know what? That's so true. I never even thought of it like that. How Elvis has just always just been this thing. This he became more than just a person, like this
Yeah,
force that's just been there, right? We may not know the
yeah,
lyrics of the songs. We do know the Jailhouse Rock. Maybe you've seen the photo
mm,
of it, or of him all
mm,
dressed up, or maybe just even his costume. Like not even costumes, his outfits. That's what he really wore. I don't even think he considered
yeah,
them costumes. That was just
yeah,
his style and his fashion, right? So it's
yeah. Like
interesting
if someone
how
put on a pair of, if someone put on a pair of big gold sunglasses or something like that, you'd say, you just go, oh gosh, they're really Elvis looking. You know
yeah,
what I mean? Like even you're famous when yeah,
yes, right?
your look. You've only got to show one aspect of your look and go, Elvis. It's Elvis. It's amazing. And so it's such an honor to have been part of this story. And it does not surprise me that it's been the hit movie of the summer, and that it's making Warner Brothers a lot of money.
Oh, that it is.
I'll be
That
very
is
happy.
definitely. Well, like we were just talking about it right now, there's this wealth of knowledge about Elvis and how he kind of is just part of the paradigm of our culture. Now, not as much about Gladys. So, how did you approach playing this role, and what kind of research did you personally do in order to get the essence of her?
Yeah. I mean, it's an interesting question because I don't feel I had the pressure from, say, Baz Luhrmann, the director, um, or anyone else involved in it to kind of like absolutely nail it and be Gladys. I think I was allowed a certain amount of freedom to do my version of Gladys.
Okay.
And I remember in the audition, um, I remember thinking, I've never met Gladys Presley. There's not a lot of video footage of Gladys. There's lots of photographs,
Mm-hmm.
tiny little bit of audio, which I listened to quite a few times. Um, so I thought, how do you? It can't just be about me trying to be Gladys because sort of none of us know really who Gladys was, apart from some people who are very close to the
Right, right.
family.
Mm-hmm.
So I kind of thought, in a way, I've got to do the research, but at the end of the day, I've got to do the Helen version of Gladys, of what I think she was, and it's either right or it's wrong, or it's what they want or it's not what they want, and kind
Mm-hmm.
of, to my great satisfaction, it won the day. And it was interesting because Baz had to give me the role, but because it was one of the lead roles, it had to be okayed by Warner Brothers and the Presley family, I believe. So,
Oh wow.
well, I guess, I'm a family member. They have to you're representing their family.
That's true.
But
Yeah.
I think one of the things is there's a lot of, you do look at a lot of photographs of Gladys, and she did look sad a lot of the time, but I think that was sort of more towards the end, because when you listen to perhaps like Cousin Billy talking about her, I mean, he's, says what a kind woman, what a generous woman she was. She'd often, she'd have his friends and girlfriends there and always have a sandwich and a Coke for them. And, she was fun. She was fun. And so in the scenes in the script, there was a lot of the tragedy and the drama. And I was really looking for some moments when I could show that other side, well, the feisty side. So I did get to show the feisty side,
Yeah.
but also
Yeah.
there's one little tiny scene
Is it the hound
when,
dog scene you're about to talk about when she's
yeah,
laughing?
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
when
I knew
they're
it.
watching the television,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
she's just killing herself laughing about how fabulous he is and how funny he is. And I was so happy because the other thing is, as an actor, and you were sort of saying, quite often the power is not in your hands as an actor, because you
Yeah.
can shoot that scene, but you don't know if it's going to make it the cut. And I was really hoping. So when I didn't get to see it till the Gold Coast premiere here in Australia, and um, I was watching it thinking, I want that scene because I want to show a little bit of the balance of Gladys, so that she wasn't always kind of worried and sad and anxious. She could be an absolute riot and really good fun. And I was just so happy when that little moment made it into the film. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that is a great moment, and a lot of these biopics, you have the traditional like maternal mother who is very protective of son or daughter, and yes, we do see a lot of that in this as well with Gladys. But I think it's great. A scene like that kind of showed that hey, she is a human being as well. She's more than just a mother. She is her own person, and I think that's one of the examples of just showing great of a versatility, how great versatility in terms of how you approach this character. So on the topic of Baz, this is a very stylized movie, and it's very different than your traditional musical biopics or any biopic, and that's largely because of himself. So, can you talk a
Yeah.
bit more about the process of working with such a creative force like Baz Luhrmann?
Yeah, I think it's interesting getting back to sort of, say, my background in the theatre. That's Baz's background as well. He started in the theatre, and Moulin Rouge was uh, sorry, Strictly Ballroom was workshopped as a play initially, and then became the film, all that kind of stuff. So Baz's language is very theatrical, and it's not surprising. A lot of the actors that I know that got parts in the film all have a theatre background as well. And I find that interesting because, yes, because as you say, his style is quite theatrical. But I
Right.
think there's something about theatre actors, and it's probably the world over, is we're used to, it's not like kind of, this is my shtick, this is what I do, don't ask me to go outside my comfort zone. With theatre actors, it's like, do this, try this, give me a bit of that,
Yeah.
scrap that, try this. And we're going, yep, yep, I'll do that, yep. Like we're ready to kind of go with the
You have to be on your
flow.
feet. Yeah, you have to. You have to be able to like
Yeah,
just
you got to
change
think
directions at
fast.
all
Yeah.
times. Yeah, on the spot.
And
Yeah.
Baz's brain thinks fast. He's he thinks a million miles an hour. And I've never done a film of this size before. Like it was, look, I'm sure it's the size of any kind of big kind of studio picture, but there were just cameras for days, crew for days. There was just so much going on. And
Hmm.
you know, and because it was period stuff, like say with Austin, and Tom Hanks as well, because Tom has prosthetics and everything. When you would say cut, there'd be the prosthetics team of like 5 people who would come in, work, they go, makeup team come in, the hair team come in, like just to kind of keep those, like just the scale of it was amazing. So Baz had all these whole, and then sometimes you would have hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of extras. They had to be the crowd scenes in, you know, in Elvis's
Yeah.
concerts. And I've never seen a director work so, he loves extras. And number one, CM had, Catherine Martin, the designer, had them all individually dressed in specific 1950s outfits or whatever
You can
the era
tell.
was.
Yeah. Hmm.
Yeah. And then so Baz would get up there on the microphone and speak to them and sort of go, this film, you'll be showing your grandchildren, make it last. This is, you've got to, you know, this is the moment. And he just, you know, I can't hear you. And they go, and he goes, you're at an Elvis concert. I can't hear you. And they go, and it was just electric. He just,
Hmm.
because as you can imagine, you're shooting all day. You might be doing that same bit all day. It's really tiring. And so by after lunch or something, he'd get them back on their feet and he'd just rev them up. And they were like, those reactions of some of those girls that are they're weeping and crying and screaming, they were for real doing that. It was just amazing. And that's Baz. That's just Baz's energy and commitment and joy. He's a very joyous director. And I was saying to, I can't remember who it was, someone I think who is very experienced. I can't remember who it was, but
Hmm.
you know, could have even been Tom, who was very chatty between, you know, he's very affable and gorgeous. And a few people said, and I don't think this is what all big films are like. They're not all like this. This is something special. This is the way everyone worked together. Like, I think everyone kind of felt the power of the moment. I don't know if it's the Elvis effect, but we all knew right from the get-go that Austin was special. I mean, he was literally singing the songs,
Yeah.
doing the moves, acting. I mean, it was like, oh my God. Like, it
Well, you
was
know what?
really, yeah.
Yeah, like you nailed it right there, right? And you can't speak about this movie without talking about Austin Butler himself, who I personally feel gives one of the best performances of the last decade. He has completely immersed himself as Elvis in this movie, and as I mentioned up
Yeah.
top, like one of my favorite scenes in the movie is just the scene you guys have at the very start where he decides to quit his job and he's gonna go with the colonel on this little tour. And what I loved
Yeah.
about that scene is it's so genuine and heartfelt, and it really shows that Gladys was
Mm.
the anchor for Elvis for pretty much everything he did. So, in your opinion, what made your and Austin's chemistry so genuine in this film?
Um, Austin is a really lovely person. um, like when I say lovely person, a kind of a genuine person. Like when you speak to Austin, he listens to you. Sounds really basic, but you know when someone actually listens,
Yeah.
it's a different conversation.
Hmm.
And because he cared about his performance, he cared about the movie. But I think and I think this is also the key to why he, one of the, apart from the singing and the dancing and all that, in the fact that he's beautiful and all that kind of stuff, I think the reason, and I don't know, but maybe when people have played Elvis before, they've just sort of, I don't know, they kind of go for the cool, hey baby,
Yeah,
whereas
yeah.
he brought the heart and this that beautiful warmth that Elvis had as well, and and the humor and all that kind of stuff. So when we, getting back to Gladys and us and Elvis, I guess we'd done our homework. We knew what the scene was about, like that one in the bedroom when he kind of hugs her and I'll call you every night,
Yeah.
mama, and all that kind of stuff. I remember when we went to do that because a lot of the scenes, as you know, like the big kind of showbiz, and this was a very domestic scene. It's in the housing commission flats. They didn't have much. This is, and in this tiny little room of Gladys's and Vernon's bedroom, and she's gone in there. So it was a very simple, domestic, quiet scene,
Right.
between a mother and her son, and the great connection and love that they had for each other. And it was interesting on the day because Baz said, once they take forever to kind of set up the lights and the this and the do. He said, no, we can kind of leave the set, we can go and rehearse it in another studio, and we can, workshop it, and we can blah, 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 like anything you want. And Alton and I kind of went quiet, and I'm thinking, I don't need to, because I'm thinking, I've done the homework, we've discussed the scene. And I'm thinking, but then, if Austin wants to do that, more than happy to. But he's probably thinking, well, if Helen wants to, more than happy to. So we both went, and we went, we looked at each other and went, oh, we don't need to. And Beth went, okay, fine. I said, I think we should just shoot it. Like, we know what we're doing. And I think it's because Austin and I trusted the material, and he was just so present with me that it just became so easy to perform that scene. I think it's also that kind of idea that sometimes actors don't want to kind of overcook it. You don't want to, you don't want to beat the thing to death and then put it on camera. Let's just see what bubbles up once the camera starts rolling. And it was one of the happiest days that I had on the shoot. And I think Austin was really happy about it as well. Because there aren't many of those scenes in the film, are there? Those kind of quiet.
Yeah.
And I think the audience is really looking forward to that kind of, at that point of the movie, of bringing it down to something delicate and intimate and beautiful. And yeah, so I don't know. There's something. Austin was just a very, what we tend to call available actors, and that means emotionally available, and it just made it really, really easy, just two actors working. And I think we liked each other. Whenever Austin would see me on set, he'd go, hey mama, and give me a big hug, and so it was great.
Let's see. Like, it's just funny, like, how ironic is it that in a movie about Elvis, the glitz and glamour, and of course when you have Baz Luhrmann directing it, one of the most powerful scenes is the smallest, most intimate scene in a little bedroom, right? If you think about it, it's just, I think that's the power of the movie, right?
I think so. And also, I'm really kind of, Gladys was known, this is no disrespect to Gladys, but she was very conscious of her weight, and she, she was, I think she sort of wanted to be a bit more glamorous for her gorgeous, glamorous son and everything. And I just, she had her own sort of issue, and she was no glamour. She wasn't a glamorous woman. Although she, always made the effort to present herself well and all that kind of stuff. And I just think, I just wanted to kind of really own that she was a very simple woman from a rural background, really borderline poverty, thrown into a world of extreme wealth and glamour, and never quite. I think she would have been able to handle all of that if she'd had Elvis home more. But of course, who would have predicted that his career would have been so big so fast. And so she kind of got left behind and she was lost. But I think one of the reasons we enjoy Gladys in the movie is that kind of homey, daggy, regular person amongst all the
Hmm.
glamour. We kind of go, oh, that's the mama who's just, there she is.
Yeah.
I think if she was kind of this gorgeous kind of diamonds and furs, and I don't know that we'd feel the same way about her. There's just something sort of essential and raw and real about Gladys that we really love. And she strikes a note in the movie that no other character does.
And
Mm.
that's true because when I watched the movie, I when I saw Gladys, and again, this is a testament to you, is I saw my relationship with my mom and just the kind warmth that she provides me and my brothers, and it's just I think that's one of the reasons why Elvis, from everything I've read and from every interview I've seen, people that knew him always said that he was a very gentle, kind soul, and I think a lot of that has to do with his upbringing and just being
Mm.
that disciplined young man about just with all the things he's been through. So I think that's really interesting. And again, like I said, that's largely due to your amazing performance in this movie. So
Thanks,
you touched
Talal.
on, oh no, of course, I can't say that enough. We touched upon it just now a little. What was crazier to shoot, the hayride or the scene of Austin performing Trouble? As not even as Gladys, but as Helen, just walking on the set and just being like, "Whoa, this is Austin in his full Elvis, fully like going crazy, the extras." Which one did you find to be a bit more overwhelming?
um that when you sing because I'm evil, evil, that one, that
Yeah,
that
yeah,
one
it's
as
Trouble one.
opposed to the
Yeah, yeah.
Hayride. Yeah, look, I think
Mhm.
that was the Russwood concert as opposed
Yeah.
to the Hayride. I mean, they were both fantastic, but Russwood was incredible, partly because that was the scene where we had huge amounts of extras. And I also got, Tom Hanks, it's just, you do pinch yourself and going, oh my goodness, I'm in a film with Tom
I
Hanks.
know
It's so
the Tom
great.
Hanks, right? Yeah.
Yeah, he comes across and, says, I think you should go now when things start to get kind of, but we, once the kind of the kids start to rush the stage, because this took days to shoot. But again, Baz was whipping them up. They were kind of, and we we had to calm them down sometimes too. But because he wanted kind of Gladys to sort of almost be a bit pushed and shoved as well, and so Elvis sees it and he starts to be worried for his mother, and that's why he's
Yeah.
saying, "Get in the car, get in the car." Um, uh, it was just wild. It was like a kind of a riot, but just watching yeah, Austin, he kind of gave it his all. I don't know if I think he might have hurt his knees in that because I think he kind of went down into that kind of that classic kind of
Yeah,
Elvis
yeah,
thing
like
where he goes
the whole
down on his
Elvis thing,
knees.
yeah.
On he must have done that 100 times,
Oh,
like like he just didn't stop. That was
oh yeah.
pretty exciting. I mean, you had stunt people falling off the back of the stage, and you had car like the studio was so large that you could have cars driving off, and it was just it was pretty damn exciting that one. So I'd have to say the Russwood concert.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you know what's interesting is that this was really the first film that was affected by the pandemic, where you guys are ready to shoot, but then you had to
Yeah.
hit pause and then come back, like I think a year later to kind of film it. So, did anything ever change within that time frame? Like, did your anything about your part change? Were there any added scenes ever added or taken away? And just what was the vibe when you guys started to shoot again, especially now that you have all these restrictions? Being an artist, is it difficult to kind of adapt to it, or was it after a few days everyone just kind of fell into their place?
Well, two things. Firstly, I wasn't cast when it initially was going to go
Oh, okay.
ahead. That it was Maggie
Maggie
Gyllenhaal.
Gyllenhaal, right? Yeah, yeah, I
Yeah.
remember that.
Then the pandemic, then Tom gets, COVID, and then the world gets COVID, and everything sort of shuts down. So then I think it was 6 months later they just decided to kind of get it going again. And I believe that was Tom said to Baz, if you don't kind of if you don't kind of get going on this, it's such a big kind of juggernaut, it's just going to tank. And, you got to just keep those wheels,
Yeah.
you got to shoot during a pandemic. And so I was brought on when it actually got going. So I had nothing to compare it to.
Mm-hmm.
So I just, however, I live in one state. It was shooting in another state. We had state borders closed during the pandemic. So getting home to my family became this, we were all kind of put in a very nice hotel. You'd be, COVID tested a couple of times a week and all that kind of stuff. It was much easier on the actors, of course. You can't wear a mask when you're acting. But, the crew were always masked and, it just became normal. It just became the new normal. But, every now and then you go, it takes one person to get COVID for like perhaps a whole department to shut down. So it was every kind of, you'd go, it was, it was tricky. But look, we shot without stopping. So it was, pretty amazing.
Yeah, and I guess it's a big just testament to the entire team, right? Because this is actually even like I believe before like vaccinations and stuff like that, where everyone's just trying to be as safe as they can. So and just the fact that a movie of this scale happened to shoot during the pandemic, I think that's a great triumph at itself because when you have this many extras, right?
Yeah, I think the thing though where we were lucky was I think that COVID had really taken off in America at the time, but Australia was pretty COVID free. We shut our borders really early on. And so we were kind of like a little island of safety for a while we were shooting. Of course, there was COVID there, but it hadn't exploded yet.
Mm-hmm.
So again, I think we were very lucky with the timing.
Well, let's fast forward to the movie finally coming out. Gets this great audience feedback. People are loving it. What was your reaction for the first time watching it?
Well, I saw it on one of those big giant, IMAX, what they call the
big screen, like those like Dolby
and then we chose
audio
to sit
and everything.
Yeah. So that was at the Gold Coast premiere, and I was with a few cast members and stuff, and we decided stupidly to sit down the front.
Oh,
so
Helen, rookie mistake.
I'm looking at myself like this, going, "Oh God." It was just like, 12 feet high head of mine just going, oh, so I couldn't look. I remember thinking, all I thought was, oh, please don't be crap. I just hope I'm not crap in this. And then I realized I wasn't crap. And then I was really thrilled because like 80%, I would say, of the scenes I shot made it into the film. Like, I was thinking, like, how much is going to go snip, 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 and I'm not even going to be in it. I went, oh, no, I'm in it. Oh, like, I'm really in it. And then, it was a really big moment for me to see my name come up on the credits with my own page. Helen Thomson. I went, this is a really nice moment in my career. But it took me seeing it 2 more times for me to actually kind of calm down and just go, I think it's a really great movie. I think it's fantastic. I think Baz has done an amazing job, and everyone in it is great.
Well, hey, that's to everyone out there. If a girl from the country in Australia can have her own little page on a big studio blockbuster, I follow your dreams. Helen Thomson is. She's just she's showing you guys that, showing all of us that just if you stick with your dreams, follow your passions, one day you can get there, and you will. So, what was your favorite scene of the movie, excluding any of the Gladys scenes, because we all know we love those, but what was yours that was just making you either tap your feet on the floor or just enjoying the ride?
Yeah, I think, yes, taking out any of the Gladys stuff, I think because Gladys dies by 1958, I didn't ever get to see any of the 70s stuff. I did sneak in one day when they were shooting something at the International, but I didn't get to see Austin perform that day. It was when they're kind of talking to the bosses of the hotel, with the kind of the contracts and that kind of thing. But I just loved when Elvis gets the big band together at the International Hotel. and he just really starts to own those moves.
Yeah, yeah.
And and I just went, wow, he's nailed those moves. It was so exciting to watch him do that. And then I think one of the really clever bits was that lovely, and I don't want to be a spoiler to anyone who hasn't seen it, but
At this
when
point,
he's
everyone's seen
singing,
it.
because everyone's seen it.
We're
We're
good.
good. Yeah. Um, is when he's singing towards the end. He's at that piano. He's really unwell.
Oh,
It's right towards the end.
yeah.
And then it morphed into real Elvis. I went, ah. And you know what was so clever about
Yeah.
that is we went, now when we look at real Elvis's face, we kind of somehow understood all that he'd been through to
Mhm.
get to that point. And so we had such empathy for him. I thought it was
Yeah.
such a clever idea.
That
So
scene
good.
hits you. It really does. Both times I
Mm,
watched in the theaters, you can I heard gasps, and then you can hear like people like
yep.
tearing up and just kind of holding back their tears, and it
Mm,
just like you mentioned, right? Here you have this handsome man who's just the perfection of how someone should look like, and then you have Austin as well, and then it kind of turns into that scene, and it really makes you empathize with the man behind all the glitz and glamour. So I think that was such a
yep.
powerful scene, especially
Mm.
at that point of the movie. So kind of putting a bow on the conversation about Elvis, what does this movie mean to you, and what are you most thankful for having done this movie?
Um, I'm thankful for, I guess, the privilege of being a part of the Elvis story in probably a movie that will stand the test of time, I think. Obviously there'll be other Elvis movies in the future. He's just, his popularity never seems to wane, but it really, I think, is one of, and the Presley family themselves say this, that it really is one of this. They are very proud of it because they feel it's just to be part of that Presley story in that movie is great. And also, I'm very grateful to Baz and Warner Brothers and that kind of stuff for taking a chance on an technically an unknown actress, even though I'm very experienced. I'm not a star, and they could have had anyone, and I kind of, they gave me the opportunity, and for that I think I'll always be hugely grateful. And it's something that I will always be really proud of.
Yeah, and like you said there about the Elvis, the entire Presley family, I think this is the definitive Elvis movie. There's so many more. There are going to be more movies to be made in the future, and there's already so many that already exist. But from any
Mm,
time you read an interview or watch either Lisa Marie or Priscilla talking about it, they
mm,
really feel that the essence, the human essence, has been captured. And we kind of spoke about that a bit earlier, where maybe the movies in the past, maybe it was too much of an imitation and trying to maybe get lost in the glitz and glamour of it. Whereas Baz, Austin, Tom Hanks, yourself, everyone really humanized these characters. And I think that's why it's resonating with so many people. So I think
mm.
that's fabulous. So as we wrap up with the great Helen Thomson, it is now time for a segment I call the final act. Helen, I'm going to ask you 10 rapid fire questions about your likes and your dislikes. I just want the first thing that pops into your mind. But here's the catch. We're going to try to get through them in 1 minute. You up for it?
Okay, I'm
All
up
right.
for it.
Movies or TV shows?
Movies.
Theater or watch at home?
Theater.
Favorite movie not named Elvis?
Oh gosh, A Room with a View.
Favorite sequel?
Star Wars.
Favorite song of Elvis's?
Suspicious Minds.
Summer or fall?
Fall.
Does pineapple belong on pizza?
Yep.
All right, we're gonna have to cut that one. All right, so favorite Australian cricketer?
The late Shane Warne.
Legend. Describe the film Elvis in one word.
In one word,
In one word.
awesome.
And lastly, describe your creative arts journey in one word.
Continuing.
Bam. You nailed it. You know what? got just slightly over the minute, but we're gonna shave those little extra seconds off.
Shave it.
Helen, shave it. It's gone. It's gone. It was actually 56 seconds. You nailed it.
Yeah.
Helen, thank you so much for taking the time out of your day to being on the show today. We are literally on the opposite end of the world right now, with me in Canada and you in Australia, and like the beauty of technology just connects us together. Once again, congratulations on the success of the film. I'm so happy for you and the praise that you're getting for this role. So well deserved. I wish you all the best, and I look forward to having you back on the show to discuss your next project.
Awesome. I look forward to it too. Lovely to talk to you, Talal.